Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, here in the southeast region of Scotland. Scotland, of course, is literally the capital of everything. Everything. Anyway. I know that joke is probably becoming very old and very tired. So maybe when we get to the Hogmanay show on New Year's Eve, maybe I should retire that joke and start 2025 with a fresh joke about something patriotically Scottish. We'll see. Anyway, hello and welcome everybody. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a great first half of their week so far. It is ridiculous that we are already in the first week of October. Yes, it's slightly insane that this year has gone this fast, that we're heading inexorably in towards shorter days, longer nights, and colder days and colder nights, and all of that stuff, where it's just a wee bit darker. I'm not selling this very well, am I? Yes, we are heading in towards winter. And so that kind of means we're getting awfully close to Christmas. And so therefore, we're getting close to another songwriting challenge, which will be starting in December for our Christmas songwriting challenge. But right now we are in the midst of the Halloween songwriting challenge. So I hope you guys are getting on with your songs and you're using that Dorian flat 5 scale and making use of the resources that that me and Rich Cresswell have provided. It's mostly Rich. Rich has done a lot of the work on providing some outstanding resources that are going to help you make hopefully an excellent piece of music for these the Halloween songwriting challenge. So for those of you that are just like not aware of what this is, it's a songwriting challenge and there are prizes up for grabs. And notice I said prizes with an S at the end. That means there are multiple prizes up for grabs, because not only can you enter as a songwriter / composer, but you can also enter as a remixer or a mixer. So there's plenty for everybody to get involved with, because I know that there are some folks here who are not really songwriters, although it'd be great if those that aren't songwriters would actually, you know, dip their toes in the water a wee bit, make use of the resources that are provided and actually have a go at composing your own piece. That would be awesome. But you also have the opportunity to either do a remix of a piece that Rich has composed, or you can mix. You can do a mix of it if you prefer as well. So there's plenty of opportunities for people to win this contest this time. So I'm very excited. I can't wait to see and listen to your entries. We already have a few entries in the workspace already. So if you are interested, you want to be involved, but you've kind of been on the fence about it for a wee while, guess what? You can still join. All you need to do is reach out to and make contact with Rich Cresswell, and he will get you hooked up into the workspace in my.presonus.com. Now, you do not have to be a member of Studio One Pro Plus in order to be a part of this and get into the workspace. You don't need to be. All you need is a my.presonus.com account, which is free. And so if you already have Studio One or you have a piece of Presonus hardware, you have a my.presonus.com account already, which means you can enter, you can get involved. So please do. And speaking of Rich, he is here, which is awesome. So let's go see who was first in the door. And it was Billy Morgan was first in the door, followed by Sean Aaron and Jay Feliciano. Man, I still butcher your last name. Sorry, Jay. Feliciano. There we go. I said it much better that time. We got Tony Stringer, and we got Kyle Trajuziak, and we got Brett Marler, who is going to catch the replay because he has errands to do. And we got Chris Rackner, who is eating bagels and bacon and drinking beer. That sounds like a very, very nice meal to have, actually. Bagels and bacon. That sounds glorious with a beer as well. And we got Bobby Booth here as well. Speaking of mix engineers, we have two who are here tonight. We've got Kyle and we've got Bobby as well. Bobby has been around since the very first shows I ever started doing way back in 2017. That's crazy. So, like 8 years or so of doing Sunday Night Live and Songwriting Simplified, Bobby has been around. And he has been an incredible support. So thank you very much, Bobby, for all of your support. We've got Dwayne here as well, who says, ears on eating dinner and watching Songwriting Simplified. Glad to have you here, Dwayne. Who else do we have? We got Keith from Radio Tuck Trumpet. I nearly said something far ruder there. I have no idea, but I caught myself in time because that would have been bad. I would have got a slap on the wrist from YouTube for saying that. But I caught myself, and it's not a word I normally use. It is a popular word in Scotland, but I caught myself, and it does begin with C. And I caught myself, so we're good. And we've got Gardner99 here as well. And Rich has posted a link to his mypersonas.com profile so you can connect with him. So if you want to get involved, then you can do so. You can just reach out to Rich and he'll get you connected into the workspace. So that is the songwriting contest for Halloween. So the idea is using that scale, that Dorian... was it G Dorian flat 5 scale, which does sound a little bit exotic, but using that scale, the idea is for you to scare the living poop out of me and Rich. That's what we want. And so the piece that uses that scale and uses all of the kind of things that we've talked about on this show most effectively and genuinely scares the crap out of us is very, very likely to be chosen as the winner. So please scare us. We want to be scared. We want to be absolutely terrified. So please do that. That would be awesome. But as I said, we've got another songwriting contest coming up in December. So don't worry. There are other chances for you to get involved in contests. And these are like the two main contests that we do. We've done them. This is the second year that we've done them now, and they are pretty successful. People like to get involved, so they are pretty awesome. All right, so to that, because I like to give you tools and tips and tricks and things for you to help you with your songwriting, I'm going to give you one tonight, and it's actually really straightforward. It's so simple, and you can apply it in a whole bunch of different ways to create motion, to create emotion, and to particularly for the bass part, to create some interest and perhaps even a counter melody in the bass. Which can be very, very effective. There's lots of great composers who actually write really creative and melodic bass parts rather than just the bass just basically playing the root of chords. This kind of thing can create, that I'm going to show you, can create a bit more drama and can create some motion in the bass part that creates, some interest. And of course, it's much more fun for bass players to get their fingers around, whether that's on an upright bass or an electric bass or on an orchestral double bass, whichever it might be. So it's very simple. And yes, you can apply this to the songwriting challenge, just in a slightly different way. But the tool that I'm going to give you is really, really useful, and I hope it will help you. So here we go. I'm going to show you this now. So I'm going to keep the harmony of my little demonstration here really simple. So essentially, I'm just going to play triads with my right hand, like this one here, which is just basically a C major triad. So I'm going to play a little, a selection of chords here. And the first time I play it, I'm just going to play just the root notes of the chords. So if we're playing a C major chord, the bass is going to be a C, okay? So I'm going to go chord 1, then chord 4, and then I'm going to do one of my favorite chord progressions, chord 4 minor, but with an added 6th. And then we're going to go chord 1, and then we're going to go chord flat 7, so this is going to be B flat in the key of C. And then we're going to go chord 5, G, and back to C. All right, so let's play those together. So we've got 1, 4, 4 minor, back to chord 1, and then we're going to go flat, the flat 7, and 5 to 1. Okay, so let's go through those again, and I'll call out the actual notes this time. C major, F major, F minor 6, C major, B flat major, G7, C. All right, now this time, for each chord, I'm going to apply a different bass note. But the rule is the bass note needs to be one of the notes from the chord. Okay, so it could be the 3rd in the bass, or it could be the 5th. Okay? And so I'm not going to use the root. I'm going to use either the 3rd or the 5th of each of these chords. Okay? And I'm going to try and avoid the root. Okay? There might be the odd occasion where I need to play it, but for the most part, I'm going to try and avoid it. Okay? So we'll start with the root, because that's kind of like the tonic. So we'll start with C major with C in the bass. Chord 4 with the 3rd in the bass. So that's the A. And then A flat in the bass for that F minor 6. Then we're going to go C with G in the bass. And then we're going to go B flat with D in the bass, because that's the 3rd of that chord. And then I'll do G with the B in the bass, because that's a nice leading tone back into C. So let's play that together. And so what we've got there is we've got some motion happening in the bass. And it kind of creates not only a sense of forward motion, but it also creates a little bit of drama, because we're using different bass notes, they provide a little bit of different tension each time, especially when we're playing the G7 with the 3rd in the bass, because we've turned this dominant chord, which is already very powerfully leading, because the 7th and the 3rd, these two notes here, they are desperately wanting to resolve there. But if I now put the 3rd in the bass, it's even stronger. Okay, so that's one of the things that the 3rd of the chord in the bass can really do, and it makes for a much more interesting bass part for your bass player as well. So the other point where you've got some drama is you've got this descending little chromatic part of the bass line. So we're on chord 1, C major, and then we go to F with the A, then we go F minor with the A flat, and then we go to C with G in the bass. So we've got this little descending chromatic line. We've got and then we do the backdoor 2/5, which is where we got the B flat to 5 with 3rd in the bass to 1. I like doing this. And this little flat 7 5 1 thing. This was a favorite little backdoor 2/5 1 used a lot by Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. This was a little favorite little progression of his when he wanted to conclude either a section of the song or actually conclude the song in its entirety. Instead of doing 2 5 1, he would do flat 7 with the 3rd in the bass, like that. And so it provides an extra bit of color, basically, because although the bass part is still going on to the D for chord 2, the actual chord is a B flat instead. So it's a nice little substitute for. So instead of D minor, we're using B flat instead, and then G with the 3rd in the bass. Down to C, like that. So you get lots of nice motion in the bass part, and you get some extra tension. Now, there's different things I could have done. I could have continued my little chromatic descending run in the bass when we got to chord 4 with the 3rd in the bass, so F over A, and then F minor over A flat, C with G in the bass. I could have then continued and gone D7 with the 3rd in the bass, and then I could have gone G7 to 1. And in fact, I could have even further continued that chromatic descending bass part by going F over A, F minor over A flat, C over G, D over F sharp, and then G over F, and then C over E. And then I could have done C minor over E flat, and then I could have done the B flat over D, G over B, C. So basically that whole bass part would have gone like that, which provides a nice little kind of descending chromatic line, and you could then juxtapose that with your melody, and the melody could be rising, could be ascending, either diatonically or chromatically, but most likely it's going to be diatonic. What do I mean by diatonic? That means notes belonging to the scale, so like notes from the C major scale or notes from the scale that's related to the chord that we're using. So if I'm on the B flat, it would be notes from the B flat major scale, for example. Chromatic notes are notes that don't belong to the scale and don't belong to the chord. So again, for example, if I was on that B flat chord, if I played a B natural, that would be a chromatic note because it doesn't belong to the B flat major chord. but it does belong to the C major scale, but it's still kind of chromatic in the relationship to the chord. So I hope you understand that part. I mean, I could have played an E, which would be the, part of the C major scale, but not part of the B flat major scale. So you can have a melody that goes in the opposite direction to the bass part. So the melody ascending, the bass part descending, provides a nice little contrast and a juxtaposition, which can really get some motion and emotion into your music. And it's a nice little compositional tool, and it's cheap, as in it's easy to do. You're not having to work out what chords to play, what chords to use, because they're there essentially right under your fingers if you're a keyboard player, and the voicings are going to be just a fret away on the guitar. Nothing particularly complicated. You're just going to be moving. Your voicings are going to be moving from, maybe slightly open to slightly closed to slightly open to slightly closed, and descending down the neck of the guitar. So the voice leading is going to be nice and natural. So let me go over that again. So let's go C major, and I'm going to do the descending chromatic line again. So in the bass, F over A, F over A flat, C with G, D with F sharp, G over F, C over E, C minor over E flat, B flat over D, G with B in the bass, C. Okay, so that kind of chromatic descending or stepwise descending bass line is a really powerful thing. And like I said, especially with an ascending melody on the top to contrast with it. So there you go, a simple little tool that can get you a lot of free mileage from chords in your song. And you can do that in all 12 major keys, and find it to be very, very effective. There are some keys actually where it will sound really, really, really great. And one of those keys is going to be E flat major. Why is that? Because we have an equal tempered system, which basically means the distance between each semitone or half step is exactly equal, regardless of whether you're playing down there or all the way up at the other end of the keyboard. Because each one of those semitones is exactly equal, what we have is a slightly bent out of shape harmonic series as a result. So equal temperament is great. It's the best solution to an overwhelming problem, which is, before equal temperament was invented, musicians couldn't really play together in many keys because, D major would sound great on a keyboard instrument like a harpsichord, but it would sound terrible on a viola. And it would sound even worse on a clarinet. So, not gonna work. So you couldn't really write very well in certain keys. D major is not really one of them, but there were certainly other keys like B flat major, for example. B flat major in temperament systems before equal temperament just didn't work. You couldn't write anything in B flat, which is why you don't really hear very many pieces from the Baroque period prior to equal temperament, or the medieval period before equal temperament, where it's in the key of B flat major, because it just sounds horrible. Why? Because everybody's out of tune with each other, basically. So equal temperament basically made it possible for everybody to work together and play together in 12 major keys and 12 minor keys without problem, without issue. So one of the plus points of that is each of the 12 major keys and each of the 12 minor keys actually have a little bit of a different sound to them. So D major sounds very kind of strong and confident and bold and bright. E flat major sounds very resolute. So here's E flat major. And this is why you hear a lot of songs that are written where the subject is kind of about standing alone, but standing with strength. Those kind of songs where you've been rejected, or the relationship is broken down, and now you're standing alone, but you're standing defiant with strength. Write that kind of a song in E flat major, because it has that kind of boldness about it. So, and then there are other keys that have other major keys like A flat, that doesn't have that kind of sense of pathos about it. It has a different kind of sound to it altogether. And then there's G major. G major is the key for many a national anthem because of its strength. It sounds really strong and bold. Not in the same way that E flat major does. G is a very confident sound, which is why, you know, you have, you have like the UK national anthem is in G major for that very reason. Although I've heard it played in D, and it sounds great in D, but I think it sounds best in G major, and it's also actually easier to sing in G. So try working this out in different keys where you're using a different bass note. So, if you're going to be in E flat, you can do chord 1 to chord 4 with the third and the bass, and then that minor 6 chord, and then you can go back to 1/5, so chord E flat with the B flat in the bass, and then F7 with the third and the bass, B flat over A flat, E flat over G, E flat minor over G flat, B flat over the F, and so you could end up with a nice, kind of that backdoor thing, which would be the D flat over F to B flat over D to E flat. So it sounds different, doesn't it, than if we do it in C major. So now if I do that again in E flat, and actually it's a smooth way if you want to change key, actually using that backdoor 2/5. So using the flat 7 chord with the third and the bass, and then so in E flat that's going to be D flat with F in the bass, to chord 5 with the third in the bass, so B flat with D in the bass to E flat. So it's a nice way to get from one key to another. So let's go back to C major, and I'm going to go to the key of E flat using that. So we're in C major, and I'm going to go to the key of E flat using D flat over F, B flat over D, and that'll get me to E flat. And now I'm back in C again. Alrighty. So I hope that helps. It's a neat little device using different bass notes from the chords that you're working with, rather than just using the root all the time. It makes for much more interesting music. It makes for much more interesting harmony, and it makes for a much more interesting experience for your bass player to basically not just have to play C, F, G, F, C, F, G, F. I mean, that's boring. You know, the bass player is just going to get fed up doing that. And is going to find it hard to be creative with just those three notes. Not saying you can't do that, and a good bass player will. A good bass player will find a different way to play those notes, or, you know, use octaves, or a different playing technique to bring a little bit of life to something that's only using just the root notes of C, F, and G. So, you know, using the third of the chord, the fifth of the chord, or even the seventh of the chord, which is what the G over F is. That's kind of like taking a G7 chord and putting the F in the F, which is the seventh of a G7 chord, in the bass, and that resolves naturally to C with the third, and then that kind of C minor with the E flat in the bass. Just makes for nice, smooth movement to do that backdoor 251. So I hope all of that was helpful and useful, and that you get something out of that, because it's a great little device, and it will make even just very simple triadic harmony where I'm not playing any complex jazz chords, I'm not doing tritonal substitutions, I'm not playing flat 9 chords, I'm not adding sharp 11s, I'm not playing 13th chords or anything like that. I'm keeping it really simple, triadic, diatonic, regular harmony. And it just makes for, you know, making triadic harmony sound really, really sophisticated. Especially if you kind of revoice the chords a little bit. One of my favorite ways to revoice a chord is, rather than having it like C, E, and G, or even a first inversion, E, G, C, or even second inversion, G, C, E. One of the things I like to do is actually use a stack of fourths. And this is where Steely Dan's elusive mu major chord came into being, which is basically where you take a major chord. Let's take this G chord. And what we do is we take out the third. So we're left now with the 1 and the 5th, the root and the 5th, and this time we add a second. So we're basically taking that third and we're dropping it down a whole step. And this gives it this kind of ambiguous kind of sound. It's neither major nor minor. So the tension is kind of with these two notes played close together. But you can also open it out. So let's, instead of playing the G, A, and D right next door to each other, let's move the G from the bottom up to the top. So we now have an A, a D, and a G, so you get a stack of fourths. If I go down to F like that. Okay, so it makes the chord sound more open because there's no major third. So it's not telling us, hey, this is major, and it's not telling us, hey, this is minor. It's kind of neither of those. I mean, yeah, you could call it C neither because it's not, or G neither because it's not major or minor. And so it's made up of a stack of fourths. Now, if you put the third of the chord, which you have removed, and you put that in the bass instead, you get this kind of sound. And this is really useful, particularly if you want to play Steely Dan's Peg, because that basically goes between a C made, it's basically a blues in G. And it goes through the standard blues changes from chord 1 to chord 4 to chord 5 to chord 4 to chord 1. Except instead of doing this, which is a standard blues, right? Instead of doing that, it does this. It goes chord 1 to chord, it goes chord 4 to chord 1. And then when we go up to chord 4 for that part of the blues, we do a 4 to 1 again. So we're doing F to C. We do the same for G, for the chord 5, so the D chord. Okay, so that's kind of how Steely Dan's Peg goes in the verse. Now, when you get to the chorus, there's a few more chords this time. But one of my favorite parts is it does this. So we're going C, major 7 to G, with that kind of added 2, so the A, the D, and the G, but with the third chord in the bass. So that's a sound I really like. So it goes kind of through those chord changes, which are a little bit more complicated. But for me, it's that I really like that. So if I wanted to extend that, I could. And guess what? I'm now playing a different Steely Dan song with some chromatic descending bass parts that we talked about earlier. So we've got C to G over B, B flat to F over A, then shove that whole thing, do that progression again, but shove it up a whole step. D major 7, A over C sharp, C major 7, G over B, and then you get this nice E flat major to E7 sharp 9. And then you get to the start of the verse of that particular Steely Dan song. If you know that one, great. Put it in the chat if you know what that one is, but if you don't, that's fine. So there we go. So if anybody has any questions about that, about using different bass notes, and how maybe we could extend that idea, if you want to do that, then certainly feel free to ask some questions there in the chat. If you're new and you're watching and you're not subscribed, then please do hit the subscribe button, and then the chat will be open to you after a couple of minutes and you can ask your question. We don't have a whole lot of people here. I don't know why. We normally kind of hit like 20 or so people, but I think we have peaked at 17 so far, but we've got 13 people watching just now, which is great. So thank you to those 13 people who are watching. And if you do have a question about songwriting in gen, just broadly, or composing, arranging, or music theory, or anything related to what we just talked about using different bass notes over different chords, then please do drop your question in the chat. And if there are no questions, obviously we'll just wrap the show, because I'm not going to sit here kind of just talking innately. This is meant to be your show. So I'm going to just go through the chat and see what we do have. Let's see. Danny Taylor says, who's going to pay Jonny's therapy bill after he hears this song? Danny, I can't wait to hear yours. And I'm saying that based upon your entry last year, which was awesome. So I really can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. Now, so here's the thing. I'm not going to listen to any of the entries until after the closing date. When's the closing date, I hear you ask? I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked that. So the closing date is the 27th of October, which is a Sunday Night Live show. So that'll be the closing date for that. And then we will get to Halloween itself, which will be on Wednesday, October 30th. That will be the Halloween special show. And Rich will be on the show with me. And we will be announcing the winners of this year's Halloween Songwriting Challenge. And I'm really, really, really looking forward to that. It's going to be awesome. So we have a couple of major events to get through between now and then. Most notably, October 9th. For those of you that are completely unaware, Personas has announced that on October 9th, Studio 1.7 will be released. So I'm really excited about that, personally, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a brand new version of Studio One, which is always an awesome thing to have a brand new, spanking brand new version of Studio One loaded with a bucket load of new features to help us make better music and write better songs, and mix better and master better and perform better. Because now with Studio One, you can do all of that. You can start your song and you can take it all the way to performing it live using Studio One. So we're going to have a bucket load of new features, which is going to help everybody, I think, personally. And it's also on my birthday, which is awesome. That is a first. I have been a user of Studio One for 11 years, but I've been through the entire release history of Studio One from version 1.0 all the way up to the present day to see if there has ever been a release on October 9th. It has never happened before. This is a first. So, and I rather suspect it might be the last. It might be the last time that there is an October 9th release on my birthday. So, so this is a first. I'm very excited. So there will be a very special show, because here's the cool thing about October 9th. It's on a Wednesday. So it's this show next week, basically, is what it will be. For me, here in the UK, it'll be October 10th because time and the earth is not flat. So, but that's okay. I'm still regarding it as October 9th. Okay. So the release will be on October 9th, which will be a Wednesday. In fact, it is next Wednesday that this is all happening. Cool thing about this, it's my birthday. It's also a Songwriting Simplified show. So what we will do is we will dedicate the entire Songwriting Simplified show next week to Studio 1.7, and we will have some fun playing with some of the new features and taking a look at them. I will be releasing a series of videos on that day as well, that will give you a look at my favorite features of Studio 1.7, and also there will be some more in-depth videos that go with my overview. I always do an overview. The overview will basically be like my favorite 5 or 6 features of Studio 1.7. And then there will be some other videos that are a bit more of a deep dive into some of the new features. Because Otherwise, my overview video will be way too long. I don't want it to be like an hour-long epic or an hour-and-a-half-long epic or anything like that. So I want to keep it reasonably short and sweet. I know I say this every time I do an overview video for a new release of Studio One. I always say, hey, it's going to be short and sweet, and it ends up being like 30 minutes long. So I'm going to avoid that, and I'm going to try and get through the features quite quickly. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm not going to be exhaustive. I'm not going to try and cover every single new feature because it would be very, very long if I did that. So I'm just going to pick out my favorite ones, and I will feature those. And then I will make, like I said, a series of other videos that go into a bit more depth on maybe some other features, or some more depth on features that I do cover in the overview video. So you get to see a little bit more detail of how a certain thing works. And that's what my Studio One 7 video series is going to be. That will go live on the day of launch. So you'll be able to watch those. And we will do a live show as well. And I will take your questions about Studio One 7 then as well. So I am hoping that we will have a big crowd on October 9th. And also, like I said, it will be my birthday, so my PayPal link will be available. It's available now. If you wanna make a birthday gift donation, you can do already. So you can hit my PayPal link. I believe it is already in the description below this video. So you can hit that if you want to already. But certainly it will be available, and I will be actively promoting it. And my mods, I would like it if you could also actively promote it in the lead up to and on the day of October 9th as well. So if you want to make a birthday gift donation, I'd love it if you did. And it would be very kind and it'd be very nice. I mean, there's no obligation. You don't have to, but it'd be really, I would really like it if you did. So there's that. But other than that, we've got like 10 minutes to go. Has anyone got any questions whatsoever about Studio One songwriting and composing and arranging and that kind of thing, and chords and harmony and melody writing? If you've got any questions, I will take a couple because we've only got like 10 minutes left, as I said. If you've got questions about the Halloween Songwriting Challenge, we can take questions on those as well. I think Rich may well still be here, and if he is still here, he may be able to help hook people up into the workspace if you are not a part of it yet. But if you're watching this on the replay and you still want to be a part of it, then you certainly can do. There is a link in the chat already to Rich's profile, which you can go and grab. But what I will try and do after the fact, once this is all done and dusted, this show is all done and dusted, is I'll try and create a link in a pinned comment in the comments section so that you can go and hook up with Rich if you would like to be involved. It's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to everyone's submissions, and like I said, prizes. Prizes are going to be great. So I'm very excited by so many things that October has. And yes, I do share birthday with John Lennon, and I believe also Julian Lennon, I think, as well. Bob says, what are the rules for the Halloween challenge? The rules are really simple. There are two scales that you can use. There's the G Dorian scale, which is pretty straightforward. It's like it's basically there's only one black note in it. There's that black note there. So it's basically just G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, and G. It's like a G major scale, except you've got the flat third and the flat seven. Okay? Or you can use the variation scale, which is the G Dorian flat 5. So this now adds the D flat to the scale instead of the, as well as the B flat. So it's a bit of a weird one. I forgot to put the 4 in there. So that's the Dorian scale with the flat, with the flat 5 thing. The minimum duration needs to be 1.5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes. And whatever instrumentation you want to use. So if you want to write for a big band, write for a big band. If you want to write for an orchestra, write for an orchestra. If you want to write for a regular guitar, bass, drums kind of pop rock thing, you can do that. And you can have vocals and you can write lyrics. But you need to use that scale. And you can derive chords from those 2 scales. Okay? That basically means you use the notes from those 2 scales to create chords. And then scare us. That's what we want. So you can scare us with your lyrics. You can scare us with your music. You can scare us with both. But we want to be scared. And that's it. And then you got to have your submission in on October 27th. Okay? And that's pretty much it. But Billy says you can contact Rich. Yes, you can contact Rich, and he's kind of when he created the workspace, there's a whole bunch of explanation on what you need to do there as well. And there are a bunch of resources as well. So if you're not really sure what the scales are, I've just kind of played them, but if you're not really sure and you want to take a bit more of a close look at what those scales are, there's resources there in the workspace for that. And also chords that you can use that are made from those scales, suggested chords. You can use those suggested chords, or you can make your own. So yeah, there's loads in there. Been hard to keep track with work getting in the way. Hoping my computer plays nice. Yes, I hope your computer continues to work well for you there, Bob. For certain. But yeah, I understand, kind of when life gets busy, kind of things like songwriting challenges fall by the wayside, and that's kind of okay. That's understandable. Life is much more important than a songwriting challenge. So yeah, but yeah, fundamentally scare us with your lyrics, scare us with, your music, with your arrangement, with your mix. That's what we want. Okay. So if you are wanting to do the remix, there's an already created piece of music for you in the workspace that you can download, and you can remix that to your heart's content. Or if you want to actually just, you're not really a songwriter, you're not really that kind of a creative kind of person, and you want to do a mix, again, there is a piece of music there that has stems that you can download, and you can mix that as well. And, if you want to add some special effects and sound effects to that to help enhance the scary nature of it, go ahead. And so we're really looking forward to hearing your submissions. It's going to be great. So we're looking forward to hearing the songwriting submissions and the remixes and the mixes. It's going to be really great. And there will be prizes to be won, actual prizes to be won. So we got hardware, and this time, for the first time ever, because I don't think we did software prizes last time, but we've got software prizes this time too, which is great. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody's results. I'm going to write one as well. Obviously, I can't win because it's my show. It's kind of my contest, but I'm doing this contest in partnership with Rich Cresswell, because Rich is awesome, and the last couple that we've done have been really, really successful, and it's great fun for us. And So yeah, we really enjoy it, and we want to we just wanted to do it again, basically, and make it bigger and better and much more fun. So so Bob says, it's a new computer, set it all up and lost my music links and third-party VSTs. Not sure why links disappeared after 5 hours of setting up, turning off and turning on a later date. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure about that. But third-party VSTs, if you're talking instruments and plugins, effects plugins as well as virtual instruments, if you're using VST3s, they need to be in the common files VST3 folder. And once they're installed there, then Studio One should scan them, because it scans that folder automatically. You don't even need to tell Studio One to scan that folder. It just does it, because it knows that folder exists, and so it just scans it. It doesn't need to be pointed to. Whereas VST2 plugins, you do need to tell Studio One where those are to scan them. And then, of course, if you've got your plugins in a custom location, like an external hard drive or something like that, then yes, you need to point Studio One to scan that location and you do that in Studio One options locations and the VST plugins tab. So that VST plugins tab is for instruments as well as plugins. So effects plugins. So those should be, those should just never move, and Studio One should always scan those locations. But as to your music links, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. If you're referring to SoundCloud and that kind of thing, I'm not really sure. You just have to kind of set those up again, I guess. But we'll be set up again on Saturday. Okay, cool. And Ziggy has his Studio One meetup in about an hour's time. So you can either hang out at Billy's after show Zoom, or you can take some time out and then go to the Studio One meetup, or you can do both. You can hang out on Billy's after show and then go to the meetup, or it's up to you. It's kind of up to you which way around you want to do it. But that is what is happening as of right now. Thank you very much to the 17 or so people that came tonight. I appreciate it. So don't forget, October 9th, Studio One 7, my birthday. And then October 27th is the submission deadline for the Halloween contest. And then Halloween itself will be, I say Halloween itself is going to be on the 30th. So Halloween is on the 31st, but we're doing the show on the 30th this year, which for us in the UK is going to be Halloween, but for you guys in the States, it won't be yet. But that's when the winners will be announced. So make sure you bookmark those dates in your calendars, Google calendars, Yahoo calendars, Outlook calendars, whichever calendar. Stencil it into your forehead with a compass if you wish. I don't recommend that, because that would be very painful and also permanent, and might require a hospital visit for tetanus shots. So don't do that, but you do you, basically. All right, folks, I will see you all on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. And I will be at the after show Zoom as well. So if you want to come along to that, I will be there. I'll see you over there in a couple of minutes. All right. Good night, everybody.